Hi, and welcome to another week of the Working Mom Podcast. This is episode 14, and I have a very special guest. This is someone that I consider one of my mentors. Her name is Shelly Young, and we meet periodically. We try and do it fairly regularly, but life gets in the way, as I kind of mentioned in my mentorship episode. So, Shelly, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Shelly Young, and I'm 50. I have 3 children and a husband. Been married for 31 years.
Ooh.
And have lived in the same place that whole entire time here in Klamath Falls. My goal in life was to get married, have children, and create a wonderful home life for the kids to get raised in, for a husband to want to come home to. And that was pretty much my goal. I wasn't so much career oriented, but that I have answers for that if you want to know the answers for that. So yeah,
so that does kind of lead into my next question, but let me back up then, since you said that. What made you go to work?
I had a friend who is a very good visionary person. And we had been friends long enough that she saw potential in me that I didn't necessarily see in myself. I struggled in school significantly, and so school was very, very challenging. And I figured being a wife and a mom would be far more easier than going to school. But I did have other jobs before I got married, and when we were first married, that gave me some experience for what this friend thought I should pursue. And she actually bugged me for several years to apply for this particular job. I just appreciated that she saw something in me that others didn't take the time to nurture or help me see. And I finally said yes to this job interview. And actually it was a time in our life too where the kids really weren't needing me, and they were becoming so independent. I was getting bored, and I really didn't want to go back to school. And this job didn't require a whole lot of college experience. So it seemed like the timing was right.
Yeah. So how long were you working and being a mom? I mean, obviously you're still a mom, and I know, because I know you, that you currently work. So how long did you work and have children in your home?
Okay, so I did pursue being a lifeguard and a swim instructor. So when our first 2 were very young, I would teach swim lessons in the evening, which was just enough. I did get out of the house just enough. And then bring home my own little amount of money. But then later on, when the kids were high school, junior high, late elementary, that's when I got the job that I currently have.
Oh, I didn't know you still had the same one.
No,
well, same company?
No. So it was the YMCA where I was a lifeguard.
Got it.
And then city schools now.
Got it. Okay, got it. So after each kid, so that kind of answers this question, because your kids were older when you went to work, so you didn't like have them and then have to deal with like a baby and going to work. Got it. Okay. But even then you probably needed some childcare. Well,
because I taught in the evening, my husband would watch them.
Oh, that's nice, because he's a school teacher, so he got those hours. That's the dream.
There was a time where I was asked, Hosanna Christian School, I had enough teaching experience through the YMCA that they hired me as a temporary teacher. This was when they had just started Hosanna. And so because their permanent teacher was about to have a baby, I became a sub for about a month and a half. And at that time, I had the 2 toddlers, so I did have to find a sitter, and it was actually Veronica Myers from church.
I think I do know her, but I might be thinking of somebody else. I'll have to look her up.
And I was so very grateful that she said yes, that I think probably 70% of the money that I made went to her, because I was so grateful. I really wanted to pay her well. She was excellent. She came to our home.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. The only thing that I think about if people come to our home is some days it's probably not going to be clean.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
and she was awesome, willing to help, not just in the child care.
oh, that's so great. That's really great. So how did you like working and raising kids? So you did the lifeguard thing, and then you were working at the school. Tell us about that.
Well, like I kind of said before, it was good to get out of the
Mm-hmm.
house and have something a little bit different outside of home. But, you know, my identity was so focused on, I just felt valuable that I was creating a wonderful home environment, that I was with the kids 24/7, that my husband liked being spoiled rotten, like coming home to hot meals and a clean house, and he basically didn't have to do anything. So, how did I feel? The job that I have now, when I said yes and it was more full-time, the transition was pretty significant.
Yeah.
My heart was at home still. In fact, it took a long time for me to actually say, I'm going to work. I didn't identify with myself at the workplace. My heart was still in the home.
Yeah.
And it was hard. I missed having to let go of some things. But ultimately it was good. So I felt glad that I had the opportunity, but the transition of letting go of some things at home.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was a little difficult, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure. There was a period of time where I stayed home with Michaela, and I had gotten let go because there was a big layoff at Older Public Title Company. So I was out of work and I couldn't find childcare for a job because the job wouldn't pay me enough to pay childcare. So I was at home for a little while, and I can identify with you saying sometimes you were like bored and you wanted something to do, so it was just enough. So I actually had joined like a mom's club, and when I was a stay-at-home, so that I had that little outlet. So I identify with that. So transitioning back to work after having kids, and even just her just being at home for that tiny little bit, it was like I had like all of these I don't really want to be here feelings, but financially I had to be there. So when you decided to go back to work, do you ever feel like you were looked down on, or for being a working mom, like choosing not to stay at home full time?
Absolutely not.
That's great.
No. I think in the world we live in now, a woman want to do it all. And I think if anything, women are looked up to, that they can juggle house and children and marriage and a job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
It is a lot. And I think sometimes, I mean, as great as it is, sometimes it becomes a burden too, because we do still, well, at least for me, I still have that little bit in my heart that just wants to be at home and raise the kids. And then when I was there, it was really hard too. So it's kind of like this balancing act of finding peace with wherever God kind of puts you. So how do you think you were working while raising kids affected like your family and your marriage? Because you said your husband likes you coming home and having a hot meal. So how was that transition, and how did it affect everybody?
I wanted to keep doing it all. A lot of my friends said, okay, you're going to be making more money. You hire, a house cleaner. And I was like, no, I want to keep doing that. I wasn't realistic with myself enough. And I still wanted to serve my husband by doing those things for him, since he was still more full-time than I was. And so I probably wore myself out, because I would come home and then continue to do the things that I was doing when I was just at home. But I may be unusual in the fact that I love doing laundry.
Yes, that is unusual.
I love cleaning the house. I mean, to a certain point.
Right.
Cooking, again, providing for my family. That has just always been my heart. So I think the error that I made, if that was the question,
it was how did it affect them? Yeah.
It didn't. Because I still continue to do things. Now, when the children, had special events, the time to get away if it was during work hours. Yeah, that, you know, for me to have to say no, that was hard for them because they were used to me joining them. Yeah, that was difficult to let go of that.
I feel the same. Like, I struggled. Now, fortunately, I have a little more flexibility, and if there's something that comes up, as long as I don't have a crucial deadline, or if I know I can get it done before the deadline, I should be able to make it. But there are still times that I don't go to every school event, and there are always the moms that are always there. Michaela sees them and sees that I'm not there with her, and part of me is bummed out about that. Not that I mean, I love kids, and I've said this before, but kids aren't like my forte. Like, I like my kids, but I don't go into church and volunteer to work with the kids because that's just not my forte. I'm really good at what I do, and so it's not like I want to be there all the time, but I would like to be there more, and so I do have to miss out on some of those. You know, I don't get to volunteer in the classroom. I can just basically go when they have like a field trip or something, so I get that. So how did being a Christian play a part of working and motherhood for you?
Well, I think in my situation, because my husband and my family and of course the Lord has always been number one. And because of the job that I do, I think it all worked out well together, since I work with families. And we always try to nurture the fact that being a mom and a dad and creating a home life is so critical. And of course, as a Christian, I think those gifts of a husband and children are from the Lord. Because of the job that I do, you know, in a sense that is honoring God's plan for us. I think actually being a Christian was probably how I got hired, because they knew my heart was for families and children and parents, if that answers the question.
Yeah. And a little backstory. I can't remember the organization that you work for, but I actually, you had referred me, we were talking, and my son was, I don't know, around 18 months or so. I can't remember exactly when, but my daughter talked so much all the time that when my son wasn't talking, I got a little concerned, and I tried to wait it out, and he was using all of the like grunts and stuff, and so I had him checked out where you work, and you were there, of course, and so I think that what you do is really great, and the tools that you provide people to help grow their children and developmentally, you know, get them going, which obviously my son didn't end up needing any of those because he talks nonstop now, but there was a time where I was worried, and what your organization does gave me comfort, a lot of comfort as a mom. So I do like what you do. I think it's great. So is there anything that you would, like, if you look back now, that you would change about, it doesn't sound like there was, but maybe there is, something that you would change about working while you were raising your family?
Yeah, I should have given them more responsibilities. I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist, and so to let go of how things would have gotten done, not up to my standard, which is really, really a huge error, because the children had an opportunity to learn, okay, well, this is how you do it correctly. Your mom, you know, doesn't approve of the way I tried to do it. I didn't give them that opportunity.
You just did it.
Yeah. Because I wanted it done right, and I felt I didn't have the time to walk them through, this is how you really do it. You know, time is of the essence when you're working. But in the end, they missed out on learning, you know, some life skills. Not that they didn't learn, but maybe could have learned more so, because I didn't take the time to do that. And my husband too.
It's not just you, it was a team effort.
But hey, they had everything they needed. Who would say no to that?
Right, yeah. I mean, because I've worked since Michaela was little, and now we have him and he's little. You're right, the time thing. I've had to learn how to choose my battles. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my house is probably messy, but I'm sane today,
Mm-hmm.
Or Michaela didn't clean it because now she's responsible for cleaning her room. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't clean it exactly that way. It would be a little more tidy. Mm-hmm. Not that my room's very tidy, but I clean the whole house, and then by the time I get to my room, I'm exhausted. So usually it's a weekend project that I'm finally cleaning up my room and vacuuming and doing all of the regular chores. And my son's room right now is driving me nuts because he's in a big bed now, so he has free reign, which he has learned. So he takes out every toy. I kid you not. If you went into his room right now, the bins that are pulled out of the little squares are dumped all over the floor. Mm-hmm. And then the second I clean it up, he dumps them back out again. So I've learned, it's just the way it is right now. And if it's bedtime, I'll clean it up. But I'm trying to not be so anal about that because it'll drive me crazy. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the time. I come home, we make dinner, we eat, and then it's like bedtime routine and we start all over. So it's
that's a sacrifice that we as working moms really do have to make. We have to prioritize. Okay, well, what is more important? Right. My time is limited. What can I let go of? What can I keep? And sometimes those can be really hard decisions, honestly.
Well, and especially if I feel like I haven't spent a lot of time with the kids, say I've had a lot of things after work or whatnot, I might skip out on doing something just to spend time with them because I feel like that's more important, and I don't want to be the mom who's always doing and never spending quality time with them, because I feel like that's something that's really important to them as little kids, and they always want to try and cuddle with me, and sometimes I realize how much I tell them I know because I'm doing something. So that's something I've learned.
Good.
So you kind of seem like you had a balance other than you wanted to do everything. But so I know right now you're in your workout clothes because you were just coming from trying to work out, but then your adult children called you and you didn't get to work out today. So did you work out did you incorporate that like when they were kids? Were you always physically able to keep the workout up, keep the hobbies up? How did you balance all of that?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah. Well, the fact that my hobbies were the cooking and the organizing and the finding activities to do as a family, those really were my hobbies. As far as doing things for myself, we've always been an active family. So, and kids keep you active whether you want to be active or not.
Right.
So I guess the answer to that would be yes and no, because I was doing things I loved, but as far as outside of the home, extra special things, just rarely.
Yeah.
Yes, if that answers the
question. Yeah, it does. So you sometimes things were out of balance, and a lot of times they were because that was your lifestyle, is what it sounds like. So is there any advice that you would like to give to people like me, even because I work full-time and you know that, but people that work part-time, because this show is for people who work at all, really. I'm trying to reach all of the women that work, because whatever job they choose to do is important while they're raising their children, and it's always a challenge whether you work 40 hours a week or whether you work 10 or 20 hours a week. So is there any advice that you would give to us working moms who are going through it right now?
Since every family is unique in its own, I would just say really understanding what God would want you to do as far as keeping your marriage healthy, keeping you know, your goals as parents on track, and then really being realistic financially. I mean, I understand the times we live in. A 2-income household is, you know, it's almost necessary. At the same time, being realistic with, okay, well, what really is most important? Can we trust God to provide if we make some cutbacks? Since this time that we're in really is a very small pie piece, really is very small. I'm grateful for the time I had at home. I'll never, ever get that back. I'm grateful that my husband's income and help from family allowed me to be at home when I was full-time. So I guess just being sure that you and your husband, if you have a husband, or the Lord, you've really, you know, prayed about where you're at, and you're feeling like you're providing and doing, you know, really what God has called you to do. So there's no regrets. You know, I don't regret being home. I don't regret taking the job when I did, because really ultimately it's my job that helped me transition when the kids left the house. I needed an identity.
That's a thought.
And if I hadn't had the job, I would have been something to go to, since I didn't have the kids to care for. So yeah, I would say my number one advice would be, you know, just be sure that you're really at the place where God has called you. You know, children are a gift from the Lord. So how are you, what are you doing with that gift? Are you functioning as a mom the way you think honors the Lord and the gifts that He's given you? And I'm glad that He says that He'll always provide for our needs. I guess it's always determining together as a couple, well, what are our needs?
Yeah.
You know, do we need the second boat, or do we need do we need the snowmobiles, or, you know, those things that maybe aren't so much essential to life, because really it really is such a small portion of our life. It seems like eternity.
Yeah.
But now
when they're screaming and crying, it sure does.
yeah, but now that, you know, my kids are in their 20s, I'm just so grateful that I felt like I invested in them for the time that I had. Yeah. And not that working moms don't invest a lot in what they do, you know, after you're done at work. I think just having the feel that I was the mom that God called me to be. I knew I was in the right place. Just ending your day knowing this is where I'm supposed to be at. Just having that confidence that God has said, yeah, this is where I want you. Keep up the good work.
Right, and even if your seasons change, being where God has called you in that season, and there was a period of time, so we had just had McLaren, and I was working part-time actually, and so Michaela was in Hosanna, so I was able to drop her off and pick her up, and I had a pretty good flexible schedule, and I got to bring McLaren to work, and we were just struggling so much, and then we had prayed about it and talked about it, and one day Scott came to me and said, I hate to ask you this, but can you go back to work full-time? Can you look for work full-time? And that was, I cried so hard. I cried because we actually had a family trip planned. This is going to sound really weird saying that we were struggling financially, and then I'm about to tell you I went to Hawaii, but it was a family paid trip. My in-laws had timeshare, and it was a Christmas present that they had wanted to take all the kids to Hawaii, so it was already planned. So I gave a month's notice, and then we had a week vacation in Hawaii before I had to start my current job. And I remember driving, because we drove to Sacramento, flew out of Sacramento, and then drove from Sacramento when we flew back to Klamath. And I cried most of the 5-hour drive, just knowing that next day I had to drop him off, and it's with someone I love and I trust, and it doesn't matter how much you love and trust someone, it's hard. It's really hard, but every time I had tried to stay home, God called me back to work. Wow. So I got my little periods of time, and as you and I have talked, I have a lot of strengths that I use at work. So I think it is important to know you are where God is calling you, because sometimes you just know, or you're getting to a place where God is calling you. So, well, thank you for letting me question you about your life and your experience. And I love you, and I love you as a mentor and as a person. And I just am really thankful for you in my life. So
thank you, Sandy. I appreciate you reaching out to me.
Yes, I think it's really important to learn from people who have gone through the things that we haven't yet, because you give us wisdom, and you can understand some of the things and hear them, and you can tell me it's gonna get better.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Well, I told Shelly that, and I told you guys a couple weeks ago that I am partnering with God's Glory Box. It's a monthly reminder of God's glory. Every time you purchase a box, there are 5 meals donated to people in need. So I'm going to do a reveal of my first box. This was the March box, which they graciously sent me. And then if you sign up, you'll get the box ships out. You get it at the beginning of every month. So this is the March box. So I'm going to open it. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll get to see what I'm pulling out. So one thing I actually love about this box too is there's always something to share. So these look like they are cards by original artwork by Kelly and Liz Hansen. It's inspirationalarts.org. So they actually are designed to fit frames, but I think they could be, yes, it's designed to fit a 5x5 frame. So these are I think the shareable items that say 2 different messages. Let's see. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Psalms 37:4. And cute little flowers on that one. And then, the Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and I am helped. Psalms 28:7. So I'm sure you could send these to your friends as little encouragements, or put them up somewhere, maybe where you work, as encouragements, and just shedding a little light on your faith without being too overbearing. I think this is just a sticker. This is my first box, so I wasn't 100% sure what I was getting into, but I was really excited about it, because I like what they do. This is an I am a necklace. It's really cool. They're really into Psalms. I am his glory. Psalms 96:3. It says, I am beautiful, strong, courageous, wonderfully made, victorious, daughter of a king, a masterpiece, unique. His truth is freedom. John 8:32. This is a cool necklace.
Oh.
So
good words.
Yeah, it's really pretty too. And there's an anchor. I like that. There's a little anchor for
nice chain.
Anchor. Yeah.
Adjustable chain.
Yeah, there is some room for that. That's very pretty. And some soap. This smells like something I can't say, and honey. I don't know what this is. It smells pretty good.
Oh yeah, that is nice.
And they always say that they include a shirt in several of their boxes throughout the year. So I got this shirt, which I like just to work out in. I might not wear them every day, but I've learned this cool trick of flipping your sleeves up and then kind of tying the bottom, and it makes it look cool, and it's just like a regular shirt. But this says love, John 3:16. Oh my gosh, I have this tattoo.
Oh,
this tattoo that's right here is on my shoulder. And it's so funny because I saw this this heart somewhere. I don't even know where I saw it, and I was like, oh, that would be, and I didn't have any tattoos. I didn't even really have any plans to have tattoos. And then when I miscarried, I wanted something, how God healed my heart when I was going through that. And so this is really meaningful. So that's really cool that this shirt is there, and it's part of the word love.
Cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last thing in the box, this is just This is, I'm figuring out what this is. A weekly, oh, you can visit this and get weekly inspirationals for your journey. You can use a coupon code, but it also has, it's like a little postcard almost. It says, Lord, you light my lamp. My God illuminates my darkness. With you, I can attack a barrier. And with my God, I can leap over a wall. Psalms, I think that's an 8. Psalms 18, 28, 29. It's very pretty hand lettering, which I like. So yeah, that was my first Glory Box reveal. And if you want to purchase a box, you can use my code TheWorkingMom5 to get $5 off of your first box. If you purchase 3, 6, 9, or 12 boxes, you can use the code at checkout TheWorkingMom10 and save $10. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again, Shelly, for letting me interview you and giving us some of your insight and your wisdom. And I look forward to seeing or hearing from you on social media, and just reach out and say hi and let me know what you're liking about the podcast and some things that you'd like to hear. But until next week.